The cosmic lottery. We are the winners of a lottery we didn't know we were playing. In previous journeys, we looked at the ghost of dark matter and the hunger of the singularity. But now we must look at the most monolithic mystery of all, the fact of our existence. If you were to walk into the control room of the universe, you would find a set of dials. These are the fundamental constants of nature: the strength of gravity, the mass of an electron, the expansion rate of space. There are roughly 30 of these numbers. They are not dictated by any law we know. They just are. But here is the frenetic truth that keeps physicists awake at night. If you were to nudge almost any of these dials by the width of a human hair, the universe as we know it would vanish. A slight change in the strong nuclear force in atoms would never form. A tiny shift in the density of dark energy and the universe would have ripped itself apart before the first star could blink. We are living in a monolithic coincidence. To the anthropologist, this is the ultimate origin story. We are not just a product of biological evolution. We are the product of a cosmic precision that defies the odds. We are the 5% that got lucky. Welcome to the mystery of the fine-tuned universe. Let's look at the dials. The Goldilocks reality. The universe is not a masterpiece of excess. We often look at the billions of galaxies and think of the cosmos as a monolithic ocean of abundance. But the reality is far more fragile. We live in what physicists call a Goldilocks reality. Not too fast, not too slow, but just right. Imagine the expansion rate of the early universe. If that expansion had been slightly more frenetic, matter would have scattered so quickly that gravity could never have pulled the first clouds of gas together. There would be no stars, no planets, and no us. Just a universe of lonely atoms drifting forever in a cold, dark abyss. But if the expansion had been slightly slower, gravity would have won the war too early. The entire universe would have collapsed back in on itself in a big crunch before the first heartbeat could even be imagined. The story would have ended before the first page was turned. This is the visible mirage of stability. We walk on solid ground and breathe a steady atmosphere, forgetting that the very foundations of our world are balanced on a mathematical tightrope. To the anthropologist, this is the ultimate niche. Our ancestors survived by finding the fertile valley between the desert and the mountain. Now we realize that our entire reality is a fertile valley, suspended between two different kinds of nothingness. We are here by command. We are here by precision. The 4 pillars. Every house relies on its frame. In the architecture of the cosmos, there are 4 fundamental forces that govern everything we see: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. To the anthropologist, these are the 4 pillars of reality. They are the invisible hands that built the stage upon which we stand. We think of these forces as given. We assume they are the way they are because they must be. But in the laboratory of theory, we have found that the ratios between these forces are frenetic in their sensitivity. If the strong nuclear force, the glue that holds the center of every atom together, were just 2% weaker, the universe would contain no atoms other than hydrogen. There would be no carbon, no oxygen, no iron. There would be no chemistry, and therefore no biology. On the other hand, if gravity were slightly stronger, stars would burn through their fuel in a few million years, dying before life could even begin to crawl. If it were slightly weaker, the visible mirage would never have ignited at all. Matter would never have gathered into the massive monolithic furnaces we call suns. We live in the intersection of these 4 dials. It is a monolithic convergence that allows for complexity. We are the inhabitants of a building where the walls are made of gravity and the roof is held up by the nuclear pulse. We assume the building is solid, but the building is only there because the pillars are perfectly straight. The dial of gravity. Gravity is the titan that rules our lives. It anchors our oceans, holds our atmosphere, and dictates the rhythm of our walk. We think of it as the most monolithic force in existence. But compared to the other forces of nature, gravity is an absolute weakling. It is trillions upon trillions of times weaker than the electromagnetism that holds your molecules together. This weakness is not a flaw, it is a miracle. Imagine if the dial of gravity were turned up by just a fraction. If gravity were slightly stronger, stars would have to be much smaller to avoid collapsing under their own weight. A star the size of our sun would burn through its nuclear fuel in a frenetic blink, perhaps a few thousand years, instead of 10 billion. In such a universe, there would be no time. No time for planets to cool, no time for oceans to form, no time for life to claw its way out of the primordial soup. The universe would be a collection of short-lived violent furnaces that burned out before the first story could even be written. Conversely, if gravity were even slightly weaker, matter would never have gathered at all. The gas clouds of the early universe would have remained a thin, cold mist, a monolithic fog that never ignited into a star. We exist in the narrow sliver of stability. We are here because gravity is exactly weak enough to be patient. It is the slowest of the builders, and that is why we are here to witness the house, the strong force. If gravity is the architect, then the strong nuclear force is the glue. Deep inside the heart of every atom lies a frenetic battlefield. Protons, which carry a positive electric charge, naturally want to fly away from each other. They repel with a violence that should rip matter apart at the seams. But they are held together by a force so powerful it defies our everyday logic. We call it the strong force. It is the short-range monolithic grip that keeps the nucleus of an atom intact. But this glue is tuned to a razor's edge. If the strong nuclear force were just 2% weaker, protons would never be able to overcome their mutual repulsion. They would never stick together to form anything more complex than a single hydrogen atom. In such a universe, there would be no helium, no carbon, and no life. The cosmos would be a vast, lonely ocean of single protons, a hydrogen desert where complexity is forbidden. On the other hand, if the force were just a few percent stronger, every proton in the early universe would have fused almost instantly. The first stars would have burned through their fuel in a frenetic flash, leaving behind a universe of heavy elements, but no slow-burning hydrogen to power the long history of life. We exist because the glue is just right. It is strong enough to build a world of variety, but weak enough to leave us the fuel to survive. To the anthropologist, this is the monolithic irony of our substance. We are made of atoms that should by all rights fly apart, held together by a force that is perfectly calibrated to keep us whole. Our very solidness is a mathematical mercy, the carbon paradox. We are a carbon-based story. Every cell in your body, the DNA that encodes your life, and the very air you breathe relies on one specific element, carbon. But in the early universe, carbon did not exist. It had to be forged in the frenetic heart of a star. And it almost didn't happen. Inside a star, two helium nuclei collide to form beryllium. But beryllium is incredibly unstable. It decays almost instantly. To make carbon, a third helium nucleus must hit that beryllium at exactly the right microsecond. This is the triple alpha process. Mathematically, it should be a monolithic failure. The odds of that third collision happening fast enough are astronomical, unless there is a secret door. In the 1950s, astronomer Fred Hoyle predicted that for carbon to exist, there must be a specific resonance state, a precise energy level in the carbon atom that makes that third collision billions of times more likely. He calculated the number. He went to the lab, and he found it. If that energy level, the Hoyle State, were shifted by even a tiny fraction, the stars would produce almost no carbon. The universe would be a frenetic wasteland of helium and gas. There would be no planets, no trees, and no one to wonder why. To the anthropologist, this is the ultimate cosmic coincidence. Fred Hoyle, a lifelong skeptic, famously remarked that a common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super-intellect has monkeyed with physics. He saw the dials and realized they were set to the exact frequency of life. We are not just stardust, we are the result of a monolithic resonance that happened against all odds. Dark energy's precision. We have looked at the glue of the atom and the fires of the stars, but now we must look at the vacuum itself. We must look at the nothingness that fills the gaps between the galaxies. In episode 3, we spoke of dark energy, the frenetic force that is pushing the universe apart. To a physicist, this is the cosmological constant, and it represents the most precise monolithic tuning in the history of science. If the density of dark energy were just slightly higher, the universe would have expanded so violently in its first microseconds that matter could never have clumped together. The cosmic web would have been shredded before it could even begin. A universe of total empty abyss, where galaxies are forbidden. But if it were slightly lower, gravity would have clamped down instantly. The universe would have been a failed spark, collapsing back into a singularity before the first atom could even vibrate. The entire history of time would have been over in less than a second. How precise is this dial? Imagine trying to aim a needle from across the galaxy and hitting a target the size of a single electron. Physicists calculate that the value of dark energy is fine-tuned to 1 part in 10 to the power of 120. This is not a lucky break. It is a monolithic impossibility. If this number were off by a single digit at the 100th decimal place, you would not be here to hear these words. To the anthropologist, this is the ultimate silence of the void. The universe didn't just happen. It was allowed to happen by a margin of error. That is effectively 0. We live in the breath between an explosion and a collapse. Entropy and the low entropy start. The universe is a winding clock. We know from the second law of thermodynamics that the arrow of time only moves in one direction toward chaos. Things break. Heat dissipates. Order turns into disorder. We call this entropy. But this law creates a monolithic problem for our origin. If the universe is a clock that is currently winding down, it must have started in a state of perfect order. To the anthropologist, this is like finding a billion decks of cards in the desert, and every single one is perfectly sorted by suit and rank. Statistically, the Big Bang should have been a frenetic jumble of high entropy mess. It should have been a lukewarm soup where nothing ever happened. But it wasn't. Sir Roger Penrose calculated the odds of our universe beginning in such a low entropy orderly state. The number is so large, it is almost impossible to write down. 1 part in 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. This is the ultra-fine tuning. It means the universe began with a monolithic degree of precision that allowed for the formation of stars, planets, and people. If the beginning had been even slightly more messy, the cosmic clock would have been broken before its first tick. We live in the afterglow of a perfect start. We are the complexity that was made possible because the early universe was clean. The chaos is coming, but we are only here because the dark began with a miracle of order, the Anthropic principle. We have spent this journey marveling at the luck of our existence. We look at the dials, we see the monolithic precision of the entropy and the dark energy, and we feel special. We feel like the universe was built for us. But there is a colder, more logical perspective that the anthropologist must consider the Anthropic principle. This principle suggests that we are not the reason the universe is fine-tuned. Instead, the universe must be fine-tuned because we are here to observe it. It is a frenetic loop of logic. If gravity were too strong or the nuclear glue too weak, there would be no biologists, no philosophers, and no eyes to look through a telescope. To the anthropologist, this is the ultimate survivor bias. Imagine a man who survives a 1,000-person firing squad because every single bullet miraculously misses him. He might believe he is divinely protected, but from the perspective of the bullets, the only man left to tell the story has to be the one they missed. We find ourselves in a Goldilocks universe. Not because it was made for us, but because we could not have evolved in any of the billions of failed universes that came before or alongside us. We are the winners of the lottery, looking at our ticket and assuming the monolithic machine was designed just to give us the prize. Is the universe special? Or are we simply the ghost of a mathematical necessity? We see the order because the chaos has no one to witness it. The multiverse solution. If you throw a single die and get a 6, you might call it luck. But if you throw a trillion dice, a 6 becomes a monolithic certainty. To resolve the fine-tuning paradox, without invoking a creator, many physicists look to the multiverse. They suggest that our Big Bang was not a unique event, but one of a frenetic multitude. We are just one bubble in a cosmic foam, a single leaf in a forest of infinite realities. In this forest, every bubble has its own dials. In one universe, gravity is a crushing titan. In another, the nuclear glue is too weak to hold a single atom together. Billions upon billions of these failed universes are dark, sterile, and silent dead ends in the grand experiment of existence. But in an infinite sea of attempts, the laws of probability demand that one bubble will have the right numbers. One bubble will be just right. To the anthropologist, the multiverse is the ultimate cosmic census. It suggests that we are not special because we were chosen. We are special because we are the only ones who won. Our fine-tuning is not a miracle. It is a statistical necessity of an infinite system. We are the lucky ticket in a pile of discarded paper that stretches to the end of time. We look at the stars and see a monolithic design, but we are really just seeing the only place where we were allowed to exist. The cosmic jury. Science is not a monolith of agreement. When we face the fine-tuning paradox, we find ourselves in a courtroom where the jury is still out. On one side, we have the proponents of the multiverse. They argue that our lucky numbers are simply a result of infinite chances. To them, the multiverse is the ultimate triumph of the Copernican principle, the idea that we are not central, not special, and not unique. But on the other side of the aisle, a group of scientists is pushing back. They argue that the multiverse is a frenetic leap of faith. Because we can never observe these other bubbles, the theory cannot be tested, it cannot be proven, and it cannot be falsified. To these critics, the multiverse is a monolithic god of the gaps for atheists. It is a way to explain away the improbable without actually solving the physics. To the anthropologist, this debate is a mirror of the human condition. We are caught between two uncomfortable truths. One says we are a miracle of design, an idea that science is built to resist. The other says we are a statistical accident in a sea of infinite garbage, an idea that the human spirit is built to resist. We are searching for a third way. We are looking for a law of physics we haven't found yet, a reason why the dials had to be set exactly here. We want the universe to be logical, not just lucky. The jury is deadlocked. We are standing in the middle of a frenetic intellectual war, and the only thing we know for certain is that we are here to argue about it, the unreasonable effectiveness of math. We did not invent the universe. We translated it. To the anthropologist, the greatest order isn't the strength of gravity or the size of an atom. It is the fact that the universe follows rules at all. We live in a reality that is frenetic in its complexity, yet it can be summarized in the elegant monolithic shorthand of a few equations. In 1960, the physicist Eugene Wigner called this the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. Why should a series of symbols scrawled on a chalkboard by a biological brain have anything to do with the way a star collapses or a light wave ripples? Math is an abstract mental construct, yet it fits the physical world like a perfectly tailored glove. We see the same patterns everywhere. The same ratios that govern the music of a cello also dictate the orbits of the planets. The same geometry that builds a snowflake also builds a nebula. This is the ultimate monolithic signature. It suggests that order is not just an accident of our universe, it is the foundation. Is math a tool we created to describe the world? Or is math the skeleton upon which the world was built? To the anthropologist, this is the deepest mystery of the order. We found a script in the dark, and we were shocked to find that we could read it. We are not just living in a physical space, we are living in a mathematical architecture. Complexity versus entropy. The universe is a shredder. As we discussed, the second law of thermodynamics is the ultimate monolithic rule. Everything moves from order to disorder. Stars burn out, galaxies drift apart, and energy dissipates until the lights go out forever. But inside this descending dark, something frenetic happened. Life appeared. To the anthropologist, life is the ultimate rebel. While the rest of the universe is busy breaking down biological systems, do the impossible, they take raw energy and use it to build monolithic complexity. They create structures, DNA brain cities, that are more orderly than the environment around them. This is negative entropy. We are like a whirlpool in a river. The river is flowing toward the sea, toward total entropy. But for a brief, frenetic moment, the water spins in a perfect organized circle. We are that circle. This complexity is only possible because the dials of the universe were set to allow a long, slow burn. If the stars died too fast, the river would be a dry bed. If gravity were too weak, the water would never flow. We live in the tension between the shredder and the builder. To the anthropologist, our very existence is a monolithic act of defiance. We are the order that the dark could not prevent. We are the order that the dark could not prevent. The Goldilocks zone of galaxies. Geography is destiny. We have spoken of the dials that govern the entire universe, but even in a perfectly tuned cosmos, most places are monolithic death traps. To the anthropologist, finding a home isn't just about the right planet, it's about the right neighborhood in the stars. We live in the galactic habitable zone. If our solar system were located closer to the frenetic heart of the Milky Way, we would be surrounded by a density of stars so high that lethal radiation and supernovae would sterilize any life before it could begin. The center of the galaxy is a beautiful monolithic firestorm, but it is too busy for life. On the other hand, if we were located too far out in the dark fringes of the galaxy, there wouldn't be enough heavy elements. The outer edges are poor in the iron carbon and oxygen needed to build a rocky earth or a human heart. We live in the the suburbs. We are located in a quiet, stable arm of the Milky Way, just far enough from the chaos of the center and just close enough to the resources of the deep. To the anthropologist, this is the ultimate cosmic real estate. It wasn't enough for the Big Bang to be perfect. It wasn't enough for the stars to be patient. We needed to be in the exact right spot on the map. We are not just the winners of a physical lottery. We are the inhabitants of the only quiet street in a very dangerous city. The hydrogen mystery. The universe is a monolithic fuel tank. In the first 3 minutes after the Big Bang, the entire cosmos was a nuclear furnace. It was hot enough and dense enough to fuse all the matter in existence into heavy elements instantly. To the anthropologist, this is the ultimate premature ending. If the early universe had been too efficient, every single proton would have fused into helium. In such a world, there would be no pure hydrogen left. And without hydrogen, there would be no long-lived stars like our sun. The universe would have been a frenetic, short-lived flash, a cosmic firework that spent its entire inheritance in one night, leaving behind a cold, dark waste of helium gas. But the dial was set differently. Because the weak nuclear force is exactly as weak as it is, the process of fusing protons was slowed down. Only about 25% of the matter became helium. The rest, the vast 75% majority, remained as pure hydrogen. This is the slow fuse. It ensured that billions of years later, there would still be enough raw fuel to ignite the stars and keep them burning for eons. We are here because the Big Bang was restrained. It was a monolithic act of cosmic patience. To the anthropologist, we are the children of the unburnt. We exist in the light of stars that are only now, billions of years later, using the fuel that the Big Bang refused to touch. The fire was kept in check so that we could have a history. Simulation theory. We have looked for the architect in the laws of nature. But what if the architect is a programmer? To the anthropologist, the fine-tuning of the universe bears a striking resemblance to something we ourselves have created: the simulation. In our own world, we build digital universes where we set the gravity, the friction, and the speed of light to make the game playable. This is the simulation hypothesis. It suggests that our reality is not a monolithic physical space, but a sophisticated piece of software running on a computer built by a more advanced civilization. In this light, the fundamental constants aren't miracles, they are parameters. Think of the dials we have discussed. The precision of dark energy, the Hoyle state of carbon, the weakness of gravity. To a programmer, these are the frenetic requirements for a stable simulation. If the numbers were different, the program would crash or the sims would never evolve to be interesting. We see the pixels of our world in the Planck length, the smallest possible unit of space. We see the refresh rate in the speed of light. To the anthropologist, this changes our origin story entirely. We are not a biological accident. We are a calculation. Some call this a modern form of monolithic religion. Others call it the ultimate logical conclusion of a fine-tuned world. If a civilization can simulate a universe, they likely will. And if there are millions of simulations but only one real world, what are the odds that we are the original? We look at the stars and see a mystery. But perhaps we are just looking at the screen. The anthropological lens. We are a species of pattern seekers. For thousands of years, our survival depended on seeing the hidden order. We had to see the predator in the dappled shadows of the grass. We had to see the coming storm in the shape of the clouds. To our ancestors, randomness was a threat. To see a pattern where none existed was a harmless error. But to miss a pattern that was real was a monolithic death sentence. This evolutionary heritage has left us with a brain that is hardwired for design. When we look at the cosmic dials, the strength of gravity, the resonance of carbon, our ancient instincts scream that this cannot be an accident. We see a frenetic amount of precision, and we immediately look for the monolithic hand that set it. To the anthropologist, the fine-tuning paradox is as much about the observer as it is about the observed. Perhaps the order we see is just our own reflection. We are a biological system that functions through order, so we find it impossible to accept a universe that functions through pure chaotic luck. We want to believe that the lottery was rigged in our favor because the alternative, that we are a tiny accidental flicker in an indifferent void, is too cold to bear. We create the architect to explain the building. We create the programmer to explain the code. But in doing so, we might be ignoring the most incredible truth of all, that the universe doesn't need to be built to be sacred. The high point, the universe awake. Here is the thought that stops the breath. We have spoken of the universe as a building or a program. We have looked at the monolithic walls of physics and the frenetic luck of the draw. But there is a realization that transcends all of them. For billions of years, the universe was a theater with no audience. It was a vast, unconscious machinery of fire and ice expanding into a void that did not know it existed. But because the dials were set exactly where they are, the matter began to wake up. The stars forged the carbon. The gravity gathered the dust. The chemistry built the cell. And eventually that cell became an eye. That eye became a brain. And that brain began to ask, where did I come from? To the anthropologist, we are not visitors in this universe. We are the universe becoming aware of itself. If gravity had been stronger, the universe would have died in its sleep. If the nuclear glue had been weaker, the universe would have been a mindless fog. The fine-tuning is the only reason the cosmos is not a monolithic blank. We are the 5% that achieved consciousness. Through our telescopes, the universe is looking at its own birth. Through our math, the universe is calculating its own weight. Through our wonder, the universe is finally feeling its own scale. We are the order that has found a voice. We are the way the cosmos finally gets to know its own name. Gratitude for the odds. Meaning is a human invention, but it is the most monolithic invention we have. When we look at the math, it is easy to feel small. We see that we are a statistical fluke in a sea of infinite failed universes. We see that our existence depends on a list of numbers so precise they feel like a frenetic joke. But to the anthropologist, this improbability is not a reason for despair. It is a reason for gratitude. If the universe were easy, if life were a mathematical certainty that happened everywhere all the time, then we would be common. We would be a commodity. But because the dials are so difficult to set, because the lottery is so hard to win, our existence becomes a monolithic treasure. Every breath you take is a defiance of the abyss. Every thought you have is a victory over a billion sterile realities that never got to happen. We are the lucky ones who get to see the stars. We are the 5% who get to experience the music, the love, and the mystery of the order. The fact that it is fragile doesn't make it meaningless. It makes it precious. We look at the cosmic dials, and we see a mystery. But perhaps the mystery isn't how the numbers were set. Perhaps the mystery is that we were given the chance to care about them. Finality. We return now to the silence. We have traveled through the frenetic heart of the atom and the monolithic expansion of the void. We have looked at the dials of gravity, the resonance of carbon, and the impossible precision of the start. We have questioned if we are a miracle, an accident, or a line of code in a cosmic simulation. The origin of order may remain a mystery. We may never know if there are a billion failed universes or just one perfect one. But the anthropologist knows that the how is often less important than the now. We live in a universe that allows for the light. We live in a reality that allows for the question. Whether the dials were set by a hand, a machine, or the sheer weight of infinite probability, the result is the same. We are the 5%. We are the order that has been given a moment to shine in the dark. Do not fear the scale of the abyss, and do not be overwhelmed by the complexity of the math. The fine-tuning isn't a cage, it is the invitation. The stars are patient, the laws are holding, and for a little while longer, the visible mirage is ours to explore. Sleep now, the dials are set, and the universe is awake.